Welcome back to At the Mic with Michael Schumacher, brought to you by JR's Oasis. More than a fuel station, more than a convenience store. It is your one-stop travel shop on Fox Sports Radio, 101.5 FM, 1570 AM, KVTK, Vermilion, and Yankton. And we are talking to Yankton Gazelles great Chloe Cornemann, who's gone on to have a career after that, in college basketball, and a career after that in life outside of basketball, and a Yankton Athletics Hall of Famer. And Chloe, this is a pleasure. How are you doing today?
Well, I am doing great. I am currently spending my day setting up a rummage sale, which I'm already regretting, but it will get done and it will be good.
It will be, and you'll declutter some things, and it gives you a chance to go through stuff. You're like, I always find it like, oh, I didn't know I still had that. You remember it, but all of a sudden you're like, oh, this has been shoved in a corner. And,
yeah.
But as part of you go, oh, I might be able to use that. No, I haven't used it in 8 years. I can get rid of this.
Right, exactly. Yeah, well, my mother has decided to join, and she has a really hard time parting with things. And I realized that when she brought my prom dresses and both of my sister's prom dresses to my house. So that's where we're at.
Well, that is something. It's funny how that works. Man, memories are hard.
They are.
That's a hard thing to pass up. You can. I've got my daughter's been out of the house for a few years, and I still see things. I'm like notebooks that I'm like, oh yeah. This is why I have an extra room, I guess. I'm shoving it in here.
Absolutely. Yep. Someday she'll probably get her totes of stuff that you'll hand off to her, but
exactly.
Till then, you get to keep it in your house.
Exactly. If she's going to be moving, she's in North Carolina now. She moved about a year ago and just moved again from Charlotte to Raleigh. So if she's going to be in transition a few different times here before she gets settled, I'll keep it for now. But
there you go.
Yeah, and then eventually she can decide if she wants to part with it or pass it on to somebody
That's right.
on her end.
Yeah,
so.
You might just show up 10 years later with her prom dress. So
exactly. that exactly is right. And well, you mentioned your mom. Tell us a little bit about your family and your background.
Yeah. So if you don't know, I am a native of Yankton, born and raised. I was the middle child of 5 kids. I like to tell people that I have one of everything. So older brother, older sister, younger brother. And yeah, I always recall Yankton being just a great community to do all the things. It was small enough where you could be a 3-sport athlete, but big enough where it was competitive. So yeah, growing up, we did all the community rec programs. We played all the sports, spent plenty of hours at the pool. Ended up obviously going to Yankton High School. I played volleyball, basketball, track, and then got the chance to go to college on a basketball scholarship, which I was super fortunate for. And yeah, spent 4 years at South Dakota State playing basketball, ended up with a major in exercise science, and then decided that I wanted to do more school and had to turn in my yellow and blue for some black and red. And went to physical therapy school at the University of South Dakota and got my doctorate of physical therapy. And now I work for Sanford in Sioux Falls at one of their outpatient clinics, doing mostly orthopedic physical therapy, and I also do a little bit of women's health physical therapy. And my family and I, we live in Harrisburg. My husband, Nate, is an elementary assistant principal here in the Harrisburg School District. And then we've got 3 kids. My oldest just turned 5. And then I've got an almost 3-year-old and a year and a half now. So a lot of little kids. It's a lot of chaos, but it is fun and crazy chaos.
Well, and that is the best kind of chaos. And so,
yes.
When we were kind of coordinating this, you're like, okay, your husband was going to be busy. You're kind of on single mom duty, and it's like, okay, we got these plates spinning, and so nope, that is amazing, and it's obvious, that's where life has taken you, and that's, you talked about the scholarship, and you talked about basketball, and how. What it's afforded you, and that started in Yankton and what Yankton provided kind of, and this started because I was kind of wanting to interview Yankton athletic Hall of Famers, and you're one of those. Talk about that time in Yankton and what how that laid the foundation for what you've been able to experience and accomplish in the years since.
Yeah, I think, once again, I kind of mentioned it earlier. Yankton was a community that was small enough that you could ride your bike to Memorial Park, you could play soccer, you could ride your bike home, you could get to the tennis courts. Yeah, you could just do all of those community activities, and it was capable. I feel like sometimes when you're in bigger communities, it's a little bit harder. You might have to pick and choose a little bit. So I truly feel like that laid the foundation. I was fortunate enough to be good at a lot of things, but I think it's because I had exposure to them because of the community of Yankton. We support our community, we support our students, and it was just accessible, and it worked. I also had, my mom was a teacher in Hartington, Nebraska, so she had summers off, so that made things a little bit easier, but I remember several times riding my bike to and from all sorts of things. So, so that I feel like laid the groundwork. And then going up through the school system, you start basketball in middle school, organized school basketball. I should say that I started travel ball probably about third grade with just a group of girlfriends. Their moms were very selfless and took time to coach us up and traveled to, I think we went all the way to Avon one time, Vermilion, so those are really good memories too, those little basketball tournaments. And then, once you get into organized school ball, for our family, it's never a question on if we were going to participate. My mom always said you can be in an activity or you have to get a job kind of thing. And so for us, that was an easy thing to decide on. And so we were just busy. And we just wanted to be involved. And so, played basketball through the Yankton School District at the high school. Coach Doug Pasica, great coach, gave me an opportunity to play as a freshman. He had a lot of trust in me. I don't know if I had that same amount of trust in myself. But he, coached me up there, and we had some good teams, some good runs, a lot of just great athletes at that time, too. When I think back to my teams in high school, I felt like we were always really well-rounded. We had girls that played all different kinds of sports, and I think that's what's super important. Now that I'm older and I look back on it, and as a physical therapist, I know some of the research behind it, but now you hear about these athletes that specialize in one thing, and that kind of leads to injuries on the road or chronic injuries later in their life. So I just really appreciated the fact that we had girls that did volleyball, did tennis, did cross country, did track, did drama, did choir, did all the things. And I just think we had a really well-rounded, level-headed, mature, humble group of girls. So, really fortunate for that.
Well, and to have a group that meshes like that, the humility has to be a part of it because you guys were successful. You were athletic. You were good. And it's very easy, especially at the high school level, maybe for egos to get in the way. And you guys were able to, and I think that's part of the smaller town aspect as well.
Right.
With Yankton, where you're big enough that you're getting some exposure, but you're small enough that, attitudes and egos aren't going to fly that much. And so it worked out pretty well. And now you mentioned that as a mom, obviously, your kids are young, but would you like for them to be active and involved in things like that?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I think my husband and I have talked about this. Once again, it's a little bit harder once you get into a bigger city. Not that Harrisburg's big, but the school district is big. So as long as we can, they are going to play as many things as they can. Once again, it gets harder because everyone's starting younger and they start to specialize, and there's all these traveling teams and clubs and organizations. And so I can say that now, but I'll do my best to make sure my kids are involved in something always. And once again, it doesn't have to be sports either. I mean, my 5-year-old, she's quite the drama queen, so she might go into drama or theater or, and so just supporting those programs within the school districts, I think, are just, so important. It just gives students and kids an outlet and gives them a chance to kind of find out who they are and to be a part of something bigger than themselves. So I think that's just super cool, and we got to support those. So.
Well, and Yankton does a great job of promoting that. I know my daughter, she was a student manager for football and for boys basketball, that state championship run that they had when she was a freshman in Matthew's first year. And so, and that was a part, but she was also in choir, all-state choir, and she was in band. You had all of these opportunities, and it feels like Yankton, the teachers and the whoever's heading up the program, they seem to work pretty well together. They really understand that you can't start compartmentalizing, and I think that's what's a good school district will do that, and so that is good to hear. And my daughter was an athletic. She got my athleticism and her mom's, and so she got none. But she loved the sports and being part of it, and it's led to her being a bodybuilder, and it's led to that, and being in the military because she worked hard and organized. And so those are those opportunities. And I'll tell you, when she was 5, I never would have. That's not what I had envisioned. But obviously, they take their own path. But that activity is great, and so exciting times. And and that led to SDSU. Now, I'm just going to ask. Was not going to SDSU really an option? It's kind of a legacy for you guys, isn't it?
Yeah, I recall, obviously, my older sister went to South Dakota State and had a great career there. So I would have been, middle school age to upper middle school when she was doing all of that. So I got to take that in firsthand and got to see her experience. And she always had positive things to say about it. Obviously, my dad went to South Dakota State, too, and had a good wrestling career. So, yeah, probably from the womb, I didn't have a choice. But I do recall, when that recruiting process started, USC was the first one to reach out, and Coach Ryan Williams was there now. I believe he's at Colorado or Colorado State, one of them now. But he was the first one to reach out and gave me a great tour and took me through the whole thing, and I honestly really enjoyed it, and I was like, man, am I going to have to break ties with the family and go to USC? I don't know what my dad would have thought, but shortly after that, Coach AJ up at South Dakota State, got a hold of me and went and did the tour and everything, and it was just an easy transition. I was really comfortable with everything up at South Dakota State already, and as a 16, 17, 18-year-old girl, I think there was just a lot of familiarity and what I want to say, just comfortableness that came with that. I knew I would be taken care of, and so that was, at the end of the day, a pretty easy choice for me, but also looking back, I wouldn't change that choice, so.
Well, and so when you went to SDSU, did you know what you wanted to study, or how did that come about? How did your career path come?
Yeah, no, honestly, I come from a family of a lot of educators. My mom has spent 40-plus years in the public school system. My dad started out his career in education. Both my sisters are in education, so come from a lot of educators, thought that's what I wanted to do. So when I went to South Dakota State, I started in elementary ed, got maybe a year and a half, 2 years in, and I was like, this is not for me. That's just a lot. So then I had a teammate that was majoring in exercise science, and she was kind of talking to me about some of the classes she was taking and the health classes she was taking and the nutrition classes, and she had like a weightlifting class. So that, when she took me through that, I was super interested, and I was like, that sounds way more up my alley. And so switched my major then, and then got to my final year in college, and I was like, what am I going to do with this exercise science major? A lot of people go into like the strength and conditioning world, open up gyms, work as a personal trainer. And for me, I knew I was going to have a family at some point, and those hours are really hard to do when you've got small children. So then I kind of ended up in the physical therapy world, shadowed a little bit, got some observation hours, and ultimately decided that that was more down the path I wanted to go. I had to do a 5th year in Brookings and get some prerequisites for physical therapy school, and then, went to USC and got that done. So.
And what has that transition been like from, you spent a lot of time in competitive athletics to now not having that? Is there a, and I'm I mentioned I'm not athletic, so this is something I'm not familiar with. Is there an itch that you feel like you need to scratch? Was that a difference for you, or was it a pretty easy transition to not being in competitive athletics?
Oh, I think the biggest transition is kind of just finding your identity a little bit. For a long time, my identity was sports, and so now I had to shift that. I won't say that I lost my identity, but just had to reconfigure my identity a little bit. I think it also helped that I knew I was going on to do something. So, a lot of my teammates struggled with that maybe a little bit more because they get their degree and then they go right into the work field, whereas I knew I had more goals to get to. So I think that helped that transition a lot. I was so busy and immersed in school and studies that I honestly didn't even have time to think about it a little bit. So I think, that transition was maybe a little bit easier just because I had something more going on. But it is hard. I mean, when your identity is really wrapped up in your stats and how your team does. And I always tell my girlfriends that my college experience was a little bit different than yours. It just was revolved around basketball, and it was all good. I wouldn't change it, but it was hard. It was like a full-time job. I mean, you ate for basketball, you slept because you had practice, you had to, lift weights, get your schoolwork done, time management stuff. So that experience, it was just a lot. And so when you go from 100 to 0 at graduation day from college, I think that transition can be really hard for some people. But having, PT school down the road, I knew that I'd have something more to go to. So, and now I transitioned to motherhood. So it's just, all the phases of life.
Well, exactly. And, you talk about the time management and the amount of time it takes. You're balancing a few different things. Do you feel like those, because I've always said athletics, academics, and the arts, they teach you more than just that specific thing. Mm-hmm. You had to learn how to adapt and balance things. Do you feel like you've been able to utilize a lot of what you had to learn in high school and college just to balance everything in your career and now in motherhood?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, the time management piece, I think, is huge when you are involved in activities and sports and choir and band or getting your academic schoolwork done. Being able to manage that time and prioritize what's important, meet deadlines, that translates huge into life after sport. So, even with my kids, all right, bedtime is going to be about 8 p.m. We got baths, we got supper, we got, so it's all of that, even just, organizing and, managing and all, So definitely, it definitely translates into life after sport.
Well, and let me ask you this: as you've gone through life, whether it's high school, college, whether it's basketball related or not, do you have? And it could be a celebrity, it can be somebody close to home, but do you have a person or people that you've held up as examples and say, man, if I can live my life like her or him, I'm going to consider myself a success, and that's however you want to quantify a success? Yeah,
I feel like this has stayed true and steady my whole life, but my older sister is like one of one. She is salt of the earth type of person. She values people. She values work ethic. She works hard in her job, in her family, in her faith. She's, in my eyes, someone that I have always had as a role model, which once again, I'm super fortunate to have that person so close to home. But my sister Teddy is just, like I said, salt of the earth and just someone that I have always looked up to my whole life. So, I don't know if that's the answer you want, but
no, that's a perfect answer. I'm always intrigued by kind of what the guiding light was for somebody, and that if it's your older sister, how much older was she? About 5 years, 6 years? I thought you said middle school when she was heading to college.
Yep. She's, I think, 6 years if we go by age. And I'd also throw in my older brother too. My older siblings. My younger sister and younger brother, they're 5 and 7 years younger than me. So I was a baby there for a little bit. But my older siblings, I was hauled around to their sporting events. Tried to keep up with them on the bikes during the summer, all of that. So I feel like those two really just, were my role models and have always kind of stayed true to that. So.
All right. Well, that is great. And now, kind of what precipitated this conversation is I was going through Yankton Hall of Famers, and you were inducted, and just recently, not in the far too distant past. But let me just ask, what went through your head when you were told that you were going to be a part of the Yankton Athletic Hall of Fame?
Yeah, well, Coach Doug Pasika called me, and I said, "Coach, are you sure you have this right?" And he just laughed, and still I'm a little bit taken aback by it. I am extremely honored. I honestly never thought I would even be a contender. So, just truly honored, and I feel just, like it's just a big reward to see that and to be asked and nominated. So I just, I want to thank you to all my coaches and the Yankton School District for just seeing that and giving me the recognition.
All right. Well, before I let you go, I would like to just ask, as you look back, what would you, when your name comes up, what would you A, like people to say about you, and B, maybe what is your accomplishment that you're proudest of? And I'm going to say, I'm even going to set aside family and motherhood, because that's something that I understand as a dad. It's like, okay, that's my biggest thing. My kids survived, honestly. But what would be your favorite accomplishment as well?
Oh, I just hope people remember me as a competitor. I think, I just loved to compete. I loved to play. Once again, I've said it over and over, but I loved all the sports. My favorite sport at the time was whatever sport I was in season with. And so that changed, obviously, from volleyball to basketball. I don't know if I could say track was my favorite sport, but I loved the competition of it, and I loved that it changed from a team sport to more of an individual sport. So I just hope people remember me as a competitor. I always just loved to go out there in front of our hometown crowd and just put on a show as much as I could. And with my teammates too. And although we didn't have a lot of postseason success when I was there, we won a lot of games during our season. So I just hope they remember that, and hopefully we got to bring them some good Friday night activity, Saturday day entertainment. So hopefully they remember me as a competitor. And then my biggest accomplishment, was that it?
Yeah.
Favorite accomplishment? Let's see. Oh, that's tricky. I remember just a lot of just regular season games where our team maybe wasn't favored to win. No one game in specific, but I always felt like, going up against the Sioux Falls schools was always, we were the underdogs, and honestly we win most of the time. So always really proud of that. Gosh. Yeah, I don't have one specific memory. Just a lot of small memories that as a team usually involved teammates that I was just super proud of, for more of us coming together and executing a game plan and reaching the goals as a team is probably what I was most proud of and my biggest accomplishment.
All right. Well, I think that is a great way to end. Chloe, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today. I really appreciate it. This is one of my favorite things, is doing the Hall of Fame talks, because I love walking down memory lane with people, and so this was fun. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you don't feel like I wasted your time and took you away from rummage sale duty or garage sale duty. I'll let you get back to it, but thank you so much. Best of luck with everything, and hope everything goes well for you guys.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye. That was Chloe Cornemann, Yankton Gazelles Hall of Famer, Yankton Athletics Hall of Famer, SDSU Jackrabbit. See, we talk to them. We might be the flagship stations of USD Coyote Athletics, but we love our SDSU Jackrabbits. I've got a couple more Jackrabbits that we're going to be hopefully talking to, if they agree, from Gayville Vollen, if his mom's able to talk him into it, and a few others. So, no, we love that. We love talking to Yankton Hall of Famers, area Hall of Famers, Hall of area greats. So excited that Chloe was willing to talk with me, and I'm going to be going through that Yankton Bucks and Gazelles Hall of Fame list. So if you're on there, you might be getting a call from me. And we've got others that aren't in the Hall of Fame too that I would love to talk with. But I thought I thought this one would be a fun one. All right, and if you'd like to be a sponsor of these Yankton Bucks and Gazelles Hall of Fame conversations, feel free to give me a call. 605-661-5858. I'd talk about you leading into it. I'd talk about you now. And you know what? An ad for you would run after this, and then it would get put up on my YouTube channel. So, all right, just give me a call. Otherwise, you guys have a great one. This is At the Mic with Michael Schumacher, brought to you by JR's Oasis. It's more than a fuel station, more than a convenience store. It's your one-stop travel shop on Fox Sports Radio.